So today on Capsule to Cone, we're going to jump back into a song that Matt recorded a few weeks ago with Clayton Crowder. It's a live acoustic performance, and we're going to show you how we mix that. So let's check out what we've got going on with this vocal. The way I approach these types of mixes where it's one take, it's live, there's not a lot going on, and we're trying to make you feel like you're in the room. The key is to kind of create the picture with all of the microphones, because there's a little bit of everything, vocal, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, in all of the mics. So we want to make sure that we're kind of creating a cohesive picture using the microphones and the reverbs and making them sound good individually, of course, but then really trying to gel them all together as a group. So right now I have everything bypassed, and we're going to kind of listen to the raw vocal first, and then we're going to kind of decide what we're going to do as we go along. Again, I've already mixed it. I'm just kind of running you through it, but I think it'll hopefully give you an idea of how I approach this for real. So let's check out this vocal.
And I've been stuck here all alone, to hide beneath the blame.
Okay, we've got great separation. Everything sounds really good. The first thing I notice is there's a little bit of low-mid action going on, and we're going to solve this by instantiating Gullfoss, which is kind of an automatic EQ. I like using this in the low-mid area of a vocal because it kind of moves around with the notes and tames that area. And then we're going to pop on this EQ, and I'm going to show you the moves that I made on the SSL 9000.
And I've been stuck here all alone, to hide beneath the blankets that have been...
Again, we're trying to not do too much. We've just got a high pass around 175 hertz, getting rid of some rumble. And there are some plosives in some areas, and we're going to show you how to solve that as well. We're boosting a very broad shelf starting all the way down at 1.5K. That might seem a little odd, but we're just trying to lift the entire top of the vocal. We did notice some harsh stuff around 4K, which I'll show you here.
Give in to me, so that I might make it through the night.
As well as some junk around 250K, just some low end kind of muddiness in the voice.
And on to a safer place to see.
So we're just trying to even out the vocal and make it sound really pleasant to the ear. And then that's going to go into our compression. And I tried a few different kind of styles of compression. And what we ended up going with was an 1176 set pretty fast. I normally don't do this, but it was kind of grabbing some of the peaks of the vocals, and it allowed the LA2A to be more consistent. And then we just have a trim plug-in to kind of even it all out.
And I've been stuck here all alone, to hide beneath the blankets that have...
And we're just trying to give it a little bit of vibe and hold it in place. He's not really getting super loud or super quiet in any part. So we're hitting the 1176 at the peaks, just a few dB, and then 3 to 5 dB on the LA2A.
Have been given to me, so that I might make it through the night.
And then for a little bit of color, we've got the UAD Fairchild just kind of holding it in place. It's only doing a couple dB of gain reduction and adding some color.
And on to a safer place to see the sunrise.
So now you might be thinking like me, it's like, man, this vocal's still kind of muddy, and it is. Because the main mover is Pro Q3, and we're doing a few different moves, and we'll let you hear that now.
And I've been stuck here all alone, to hide beneath the blankets that have been...
And something that you're going to see is we actually had to automate this EQ. So I'm going to pull up this automation. And for these verses, it's doing a little bit more.
There's a portrait on the wall with wandering eyes follow.
And then it's doing a little bit less in the low end in this chorus. You can see the low shelf moves up.
Honey, please don't take me home.
Because it seems like he moves a little bit farther away from the microphone, and he has a bit higher range. So cutting it as much as we did in the verses made it all sound just a little bit thin in the chorus. So what we're doing is this low shelf that's kind of pulling everything from like 400 hertz down. We also have a cut and some dynamic EQ around 300 hertz, as well as a cut around 400. So kind of that whole low mid area is getting held. And then we noticed again some harshness up around 4K, and we're using the dynamic EQ to solve that.
'Cause the night feels so
You can see here.
alone.
So you can see that area was kind of gross there. And what else are we doing? We've got this very subtle low pass, 6 dB per octave, and it's at 20K. It's pretty subtle, but I'll let you hear it. And to me, in this style, it kind of warms everything up and doesn't add too much air to the vocal. That just kind of sounds unnatural in such a raw performance.
'Cause the night feels so alone.
You know, you wouldn't think to cut that area because a lot of that area it has a nice presence to it, but it kind of rounds it out. Again, I'll bypass the whole plugin on and off.
Take me anywhere but there.
Okay, now the vocal feels really even. It's really held together. It is a little bit thin, but you'll see when we add in the other microphones, it really fleshes out. And the last few things we're doing is a little bit of soothe to kind of tame that upper mid-range area.
Honey, please don't take me home. 'Cause the night feels so alone.
We'll even dial that back a little bit. We've got Kazarog True Iron. This is a preset I love called De-Sibilancer. I don't know if it really is cutting sibilance, but it does add a nice warmth to a vocal like this.
Take me anywhere but there.
And then lastly, a little bit of de-essing with the new 902 de-esser from Plugin Alliance. I'm loving this. It can be a little heavy-handed, so we've reduced the mix down to 75%.
'Cause the night feels so alone.
And so that's helping tame some of the S's, and we don't need a lot because the vocal's pretty smooth already. So I'm going to let you hear this chorus, and I'm going to turn off all the plugins and pop them back on.
Honey, please don't take me home. 'Cause the night feels so alone.
So you can see a huge difference. All the mud is gone. There's a nice little bit of air, and it's just clean sounding. So the next thing we're going to talk about are reverbs, and we're going to start with the capital chambers. And what we're doing is actually instantiating a couple plugins before the reverb. So we've got Pro Q3 doing some filtering here, getting rid of a bunch of low end and top end. We have an LA2A before the reverb. And what this is essentially going to do is when the vocal digs in, it's going to kind of push back and make sure that the reverb doesn't get too crazy. And then it'll allow the reverb to essentially kind of swell back in when the phrases are ending. So it's kind of like a side-chained ducking reverb deal. And let's see how much we're doing. We're going to turn this reverb on and let you hear it.
Honey, please don't take me home.
So you can see it's only doing a couple dB of gain reduction. That's just kind of helping the reverb not go too crazy. It's the UAD capital chambers verb. This is amazing sounding for ballads and any kind of warm vocal. And then we've got, again, the same EQ after because I feel like it was getting a little out of control. I wanted that reverb really focused. And you'll see how the reverb kind of disappears when we get the room mics in. It's just kind of to tie it all together, but I'll let you hear it with just the capital chambers.
Honey, please don't take me home. 'Cause the night feels so alone.
It's not too big, it's not too wide, it just kind of sounds like a studio, a big studio or a hall, but a studio, and I think it's great. We're going to dive into this sunset sound reverb that we're using. We started with it on the guitars, and I actually added a little bit of it into the vocal because I thought it kind of gelled everything together, and I'll let you hear that now in the verse.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safer place to see the sunrise.
Sounding great. Again, amazing engineering from Matt McQueen to kind of get a really isolated vocal without much guitar that we can process and make the vocal sound great. So the next thing that I thought about were these room mics. So my goal is of course to have this main vocal mic be very, pretty and sound great, but it's really to get everything else to gel together and then to bring that vocal up. So let's check out this room mic here and see what we've got going on.
That I might make it through on to a safe place to see the sunrise.
So we've got a little bit of everything. We've got some guitar, we got a lot of vocal, honestly, and some electric guitar as well. So we've got acoustic, electric, and the vocal all going in there. So what do I want to do? I want to bring out that more, so I'm going to compress it some with the Cush AR1. It's super vibey.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safe.
And it just brings out so much. Then I also fed it into the Sunset Chamber Verb a little bit, just to kind of give it some more ambience.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safe place to see.
And to me, that just sounds like killer studio theater. You're just sitting there listening to someone jam. It's awesome. But there's a lot of bottom end, there's a lot of top end, there's a lot going on. So we're going to cut a bunch of that with this SSL.
Now there's no one listening anyway. So I sing.
Then we took out some of the spikes with Soothe. And again, we're high passing at 200, low passing at 9.5, cutting out some of that harshness again in the upper mid range, but we're really pulling down everything from 300 hertz down around 10 dB. And now let's bring in that vocal and we'll hear them together.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safe.
And that's really the magic in the vocal, is that room mic, because watch when I mute it.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safer place.
It goes from feeling like an isolated vocal to sounding like someone's performance in the room. So the electric guitar sounds great. We're not going to do a lot of work to it, but let's hear it now. We've got it panned slightly to the left because in the video we're going to link, you can see that Curtis is sitting over to the left as far as the vantage point of the viewer. So I kind of wanted to paint a picture. So, okay, his guitar is coming a little bit from the left. We're hearing some reflections in other places. We've got Clayton right up the middle. We're kind of painting a picture with the mix. So you can see we're cleaning up some low-end rumble, and we're pulling out some mid-range that's a little honky, and cleaning up the top end, because it doesn't need to be bright. It just needs to be warm and vibey. One thing is the way he's playing, I felt was a little bit. It was already compressed because there was a compressor on the way into the amp, a pedal compressor. But I kind of wanted it to even out more so that the guitar really was a wash and didn't stick out over the vocals. So we just threw an L2 on it. You can see it's almost doing nothing. In this harder part, it might kick in a little bit. It's just barely tapping. It's more an insurance policy that a note doesn't jump out. So now let's get fun with it. Let's hear this little lick right here, and I'm going to start bringing in the reverbs because this is really giving a lot of the guitar sound. So what are we doing? We are sending to the Sunset Chamber. It's a classic Van Halen thing. We're sending the electric guitar there 100% pan to the opposite side. So I just want you to hear reflections from this chamber on the other side. And it's almost giving like a fake stereo sound. So now you can hear, wow, the guitar is focused over on the left, but it sounds like it's coming from everywhere. It's beautiful. And then we added a little bit of the capital chambers, just panned with the guitar to kind of add some vibe to it. So with those both on, the EQ and the limiting, the guitar sounds like this. So now let's add that in with the room mics. So now you can see that we don't have the electric amp mic really loud. It's just kind of all gelling together. And we're going to do the same for the acoustic guitar. So the acoustic guitar, we just have a trim plug-in to kind of even out the left and right microphones. Remember, he's miking it from the top and bottom when we're creating a stereo sound. It was just slightly off center, so I wanted to kind of square that up. And let's listen to the acoustic. Something interesting is you've got a lot of the vocal in there, so that's something we're going to kind of battle with. You've got a ton of low end, so we're going to even it out a little bit with Soothe. This is one of the presets I love for acoustic guitar, soft if well recorded, hard if not, and it kind of just holds an acoustic in place no matter if they're strumming hard, playing light, moving around. You can see it's kind of a broad compression that keeps the acoustic guitar from spiking too much. I'll play this area and bypass it on and off. So thankfully, this acoustic was recorded very well, played well, sounds great. We don't have to do a lot, but this is a lifesaver if an acoustic is super boomy and bright and weird. But Matt recorded it very, very well. So that was not an issue. Then we're doing some more EQ here. It seems like a lot. There's a lot going on. But what we're trying to do is clean up some of that upper end kind of tizziness. I wanted the acoustics to sound really warm and dark and almost like it has old strings, not to be real bright and poppy. This is not an EQ that we would use if we wanted it to be bright and percussive and stand out in a track, but we wanted to kind of melt in with the room mics. Again, we're just kind of trying to contain everything. We've got this Axis EQ that's in the Cush bundle, and we're just cutting some low end. And you might be like, wow, he's cutting a lot of low end from that. But when we bring in the room mics, there's a lot of low end in the acoustic guitar in there as well. And you can see it's really cohesive now. And just a little bit of compression to kind of tame some of the spikes. We're using the LA3A. Again, with the L2 as kind of a security blanket to make sure some peaks don't jump out in front of the vocal. We're just doing a couple dB of compression there. And lastly, I felt like it needed some more low-end tightening, so we're using C4 for that. We're just really trying to contain it because we don't want the low end of the acoustic guitar taking over everything. So we're not going to play the vocal right now, but let's play the room mic, the electric guitar, and the acoustic and see how it sounds together. Sounds pretty good. The acoustic guitar is still a little bit direct, so we're going to add in some of these reverbs. And, you know, this is a stereo acoustic guitar track, so we're just sending them stereo. And the capital chamber and the sunset chamber, it sounds like this. And then now it's got this great ambience to it. Again, let's just start off the song and hear the room mics, the electric, and the acoustic, and we'll kind of get all of this together. Okay, that sounds great. Now let's bring in the vocal and you'll hear the whole picture come together.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a solid plan to find a means to it.
You might be asking, what are all these crazy clip gain cuts? Well, you know, we don't really want to edit this. There's not a lot of flexibility with editing, but there was some rustling and maybe bumping the mic stand, some little things like that we're trying to clean up. You know, we don't want this noise that you see there to stick out. We still want the recording to sound fairly clean. So that was the last thing we did, is just kind of go through and clip gain stuff. So that's pretty much it, except some stuff that we've had on the master bus that I'm going to let you hear. We're not trying to do a lot. We're just kind of trying to sweeten it all. So we're using Gullfoss. You'll see it here.
And I've been stuck here all alone to hide beneath the blame.
It's just kind of an overall 5% better plugin. Sometimes it can be too much, but in this, it definitely worked. We're also using the new NIF Soma EQ. We're adding some input gain, kind of getting a little color from it, as well as boosting a half dB at 470 hertz, cutting out a little 5K, boosting a little top end. So a lot of little moves. We've got a high pass and low pass on the whole mix as well. So I'm gonna turn this on and off, and that'll give you an idea of what it's doing. This is a great plugin. I'm really loving it.
I think it's that have been given to me, so that I might make it through the night.
It's not doing much, but it's making it sound more finished. Then something that actually helps a lot on these kind of tracks is a pretty vibey, subtle bus compression that kind of holds everything together. So when the vocals and the acoustic guitar and electric guitar kind of all intermingle, it feels like one unit.
So that I might make it through the night and on to a safer place to see.
We're only doing like a dB of gain reduction, but you can see it's got a lot of glue. We've got the release fairly slow and the attack medium, so it's just kind of holding everything together. It's a great plugin for that. Soothe is kind of being a little bit of an insurance policy because there are times when they're digging in that it gets a little mid-rangey.
'Cause the night feels so alone. Take me anywhere but there. Leave me anywhere.
Even a little bit less sounds good, right? Then we're just doing a little bit of inflator for some color. I felt like some overall mix kind of harmonics would sound good.
Take me anywhere but there.
Again, very, very subtle. With our gain staging, it probably was a little bit too low. So we're turning that up so that we can hit our final limiter. And the final limiter, because this is pretty much focused for video, it's doing almost nothing. It maybe is getting tapped at the peaks, but we're not caring about making this really loud. We're just trying to make sure that the ceiling is at a place where it's going to sound good everywhere, and it's just kind of staying out of the way.
'Cause the night feels so alone.
You can see at its peaks, it's reducing 0.8 dB, and it looks like maybe on an acoustic guitar hit. So that's pretty much it, and that's kind of the idea. So the most important thing with balancing this is to, in my opinion, start with these rooms. Let's bring in the next element, the acoustic guitar. Okay, now we've got some vocal too. Let's bring in the electric guitar. So now we need the vocal. And then you can kind of balance it from there. Even for me, I feel like this might be like a dB too loud. So we'll bring the vocal down. And you're like, oh, the vocal level's good, but now it feels a little too roomy. So maybe we turn that vocal up 1 and we turned the room mics down a half dB. And that, right, is the big debate there. And that's what's going to change the sound, is how loud you have the main vocal, how loud you have the acoustic, how loud you have the rooms, because all of these elements are pretty much in every mic, except the vocal mic is pretty isolated. Everything else has some of everything else. So you're really painting a picture with that. And a cool thing you can do is to load up the video somehow in your DAW. Pro Tools allows it. And you can kind of sync up the video and kind of make sure that it feels and looks good with the audio. I hope you really enjoyed that. It's an amazing song from an amazing artist. And I think with things like this, the key is to get all the technical stuff out of the way so that the listener can really, connect with the words, connect with the melody, connect with the performance and the emotions that the artist is bringing forward into the song, whether it's in video, on Spotify, wherever it is. And, you just enjoy music. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out all the links below that help support the channel. And don't forget to share it with your friends and be on the lookout for more content here at Capsule to Cone.